Let's deal with the first verses of Matthew 16. First of all, it says the Pharisees and Sadducees. Whoops. What's going on here? For the first time recorded in Jesus' ministry, here Matthew tells us that two groups are together. And folks, if you understand what the Pharisees taught and what the Sadducees taught, this was a very unusual thing. This was unprecedented. That we have the Sadducees and the Pharisees in harmony coming to Jesus for one purpose.
Tricky.
And just to give you a little background, give you some understanding, the differences of teaching between the Sadducees and the Pharisees. The Pharisees taught that you must live by the details of the oral and scribal laws. That was the most important writings that you had to follow. By the way, that did not include the Bible. They put these writings above the Bible. And that's what they taught. The Sadducees only accepted the written words of the Bible. They would not accept the scribal. They would not accept the Mishnah and all its rules and regulations. They were on the opposite sides there. Okay? The Pharisees believed in angels and a resurrection. The Sadducees did not. They said, oh, that's myth. That foolishness. Somebody being resurrected and angels, they don't exist. That's what the Sadducees taught. The Pharisees kept to themselves, not wanting to be contaminated by anyone else, Gentiles and Jews alike. They were very exclusive. They kept to themselves. They tried to live very pure lives. They actually isolated themselves many times into their group. They wanted no contact, even if it was their fellow Jews, they wanted no contact from the outside. The Sadducees, on the other hand, they mixed with everybody. Sadducees were very political. They wanted to rub shoulders with all the powers that be so they could get their input and their way. And so they would be called very political. The Sadducees. Now, as you think about these two groups, there was one place they had to sit and face each other, and that was in the Sanhedrin. The Sanhedrin, which sort of was a religious political system. And the Pharisees would sit over here, and the Sadducees would sit over here, and they would glare at each other. Does that remind you of anything around today?
Board meeting.
We have something like that. What's it called? Congress. And in this day and age, we have more fights between those two groups than we've had for a long time. By the way, who would the Sadducees be? The Democrats. The Pharisees would be the Republicans. There you go. I won't go any farther than that. I don't want to offend anybody out there that belongs to one of those two parties, which I don't. Okay. So there it gives you the background of the Sadducees and Pharisees. And guess what? Here, the two groups are coming arm in arm together, and they're going to try to... What was their purpose in wanting to talk to Jesus?
Tricking.
Well, notice what it says. It says they came and asked, show us a sign. Give us a miracle. Just pull it right out of midair. Give us a miracle from heaven. And then we'll believe. Yeah, no, they weren't intending to believe at all. What they were wanting to do is to try and to show that Jesus wasn't a great musician everybody thought he was. And he couldn't perform miracles. And then Jesus came down on them. And notice what he said when he read that in Scripture. He said, boy, I'm not going to show you a sign. Oh, I will give you one sign. Which they didn't understand what he was talking about at all. He says, you'll get the sign of Jonah. By the way, what is the sign of Jonah? What was the similarity between Jesus and Jonah? The 3 days. That was it. The 3 days. That was the sign. Anyway, he said, what's wrong with you guys? You can figure out the weather, but you can't figure out what? The signs of the times. Neither of you get it.